All right, everybody. We're going to kill the music. Sorry we're a little late this morning or this afternoon, however you want to call it, right? It's close. I want to have two very special guests coming on. Of course, I'm going to bring one up in a minute. I wanted to talk before we got going to share my heartfelt, I don't know how to say it. I would just come and say it this way. We lost the 39th president of the United States, Mr. Jimmy Carter, former President Jimmy Carter. Very great guy. My personal opinion, top five of the greatest man to ever walk this earth. He was a family man. He was a born again Christian. He was a veteran. He also was our president. And I can only try to model my life and live my life the way he lived his, even to his death. He spent his life helping and building people up. So with that, I just want to say my heart goes out to family and everybody. And hey, guess what, y'all? Happy New Year. It's 2025. I've got some brothers I'm going to bring up in a little bit who's going to join me, and we'll go from there. Let me give it a second. All right, my audio's a little back. Give me 1 second. Take myself off the screen. All right. Sorry about that, y'all. We're good to go. I'm going to bring up my brothers in arms with me right now.
Yo, yo.
Mr. What's going on, Mr. Dirty Broke? And as
Happy
Shape
New
always
Year.
say, Happy New Year, brother. I'm going to bring up my other brother in arms.
Yo, Happy New
What's
Year.
Happy New Year,
Happy New
Mr.
Year.
Hill. How are you this morning?
Doing great.
That's good, good. Glad you was able to join us. I know you're one of these guys who work 24/7, 7 days a week, 365. It never
I love
stops.
it. I,
Yeah,
I love
hey,
it. I love it.
Same throw, same result.
I know, right? So, listen, we got into a nuance here lately with this H1B visa, right? And I think some of us knew about it, but not in detail, and some of us didn't, right? I'll be the first to say I knew a little bit about it, but didn't get too in detailed into it, right? Because I figure it doesn't affect me. So now what we're hearing with the H1B visa, okay, the companies are basically going out of the country to bring workers in. Now, as an American worker, I say, well, hey, if I'm here, why not employ me? Why not pay me the wage that the position pays for, right? Oh, well, here's the defense. From a company standpoint, there is not enough qualified American workers. And we're just going to start with STEM, right? Just using STEM. They say there's not enough qualified American workers that would be into science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. I say BS. Maybe that's just me, right? I'm going to call BS on it. But then I started digging. I said, they got a point. So I'm going to start with what I think the benefits of it is, right? And it's not going to be a long speech on this. The benefits of it is, hey, listen, you get to bring somebody in who you feel is qualified, and you have them basically on a 3-year contract of work. Some may call it indigent service, but it's a 3-year contract. You're not paying them top wage. You're paying them prevailing wage. So you're bringing the cost down. Now, here's some of the things that I did learn, and I think some of us will like this, right? They pay taxes. They pay into Social Security. If the state has state taxes, they pay into that. So it's not like they're just taking the money from the American public, right? It's not like they're just giving them everything. So they are paying into a system that I hope to benefit from, like every other American. So on the plus side, I understand companies for wanting to do it. But as an American, I'm kind of on the fence because I'm not in STEM. As a worker, I'm not in STEM at all. That's not my forte. That's not what I do. But they do have H1, which they call H2 visas. And I said visas, it's actually visas. They have that where they're in different industry, the agriculture industry, trucking industry, and we're gonna get into that too. So I want to lead with all that, right? And it becomes, on one hand, there's benefits, and then it becomes there's cons. So there's the whole pro and cons analogy. And if I could start with you, T Hill, what do you think that may be the benefit and what may be the somewhat con side of bringing, now these are skilled workers from other countries, i.e., India, Guatemala, Honduras, Haiti. What are the pros and cons of that, in your opinion?
Okay. First of all, I I'm not well versed in the visas, only by the shallow of information that I did gather by looking. But it seems like it's a network, and what I mean by network, the people that are in these other countries, they are highly connected to very very smart people, lawyers, companies. It's like a pipeline. They already know what they need to do. They're filling out this paperwork to a T. If they make mistakes, they're asking about it. But I think that it's bringing jobs to our country because the people that's here, either they don't want to work in those jobs, or they don't want to continue the schooling to try to get those jobs. Because from what I'm looking at, I think the terminology was specialty jobs, right? And we asked the question, what is a specialty job? So I had to go and look and see what specialty job was, and according to the definition, it was uh, basically a really specialized job with education, meaning like you had to have like a bachelor's degree or equivalent in the work field. So that would be a specialty job, because I was just thinking like, there's no specialty on it, and it could just be anything. But I don't think it is. I think that you actually have to be in school. Um, and those people that's coming over here, that's what they're doing. They're in school and they're working. So they're providing for the jobs. They're helping the jobs out, and they're actually going to school. So for me, because I'm not all the way entrenched in it to see what's all going on, but it's definitely a pipeline to get workers to work for your company. And as a company owner, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for people that want to work for us. And if we need specialty or highly educated people, it's going to be tough because we're not the only ones looking for those type of people. So they need to go outside the country to find those people, because the more people you have, the better opportunity you have to pick the best people for your company so that you can be prosperous.
Okay. All right. Well. So you're giving me the pros. Are there any cons to it though?
Yeah, there's always going to be cons. Anytime you have pros, you're going to have cons. The cons is there's people that's here that's going to get skipped over, i.e., you're going to have, like, let's just use this as an example. You're going to have a person of an ethnic group get looked over because you're not going to think that a certain ethnic group is going to be in that field. You know what I'm saying? So if you do that, you're not even going to those areas to look for those type of people. You're just skipping by them and going directly to a certain ethnic group of people. So that would be a con. So to me,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, let me ask DB if you want to add anything to that.
Oh yeah, yeah. Uh, you Let me start with the cons on that. Like the con on that is, this is my opinion. The con on that is the American worker, you're done. How do you if if you can't get the training for whatever reason, whether you're not applying for the training, you can't afford the training, whatever that is, if you don't, if they're going outside of the country to to bring these people in to work at their companies, you see what I'm saying? How does that help the American people? In my opinion, it don't help the American people. It helps ABC company, but it don't help the American people.
Correct.
You know what I mean? Because ABC company is not hiring the American people. He's hiring, you know, the foreigners to come here to do whatever that task is.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know what I'm saying? So now what now why these people are not getting trained? Like I said, I'm like with Tia, I'm not well versed in all that or what's going on with that, but it's obvious it's a disconnect there. Is that training even available? At what cost? Things of that nature. Do people even know about it? I don't know about it. It's not on my radar.
Yeah. Well,
So I would have to dig a little deeper into it to see exactly what's going on there. Why, if these jobs are available, why aren't people going after these jobs?
correct. Correct. Well, how about this? Let's just put it where the ghost can get it, right? So, in order for me to do that, I've got to walk back a little bit. And the H1B or the H1 visa program was started back in 1952. So this is not new. The H1B was started under the Immigration Act of 1990. And like I said, it's nothing new under the sun when it comes to whether it's politics, education, health, all these things that we all focus on daily. When we wake up, we wonder is our health is going to hold? Is our politician going to do what they're supposed to do? So we focus on these things, but this has been here. I feel personally, when looking at the timelines of where we've gone in this country educationally, then it's not that we don't have the people. And let me correct that. We have the population. The problem is we have a educational system where the infrastructure is broken. We're not putting the emphasis on science and mathematics. We're not putting that emphasis on this kind of technology that's coming out, right? So when you guys, or myself included, when we were in high school, there were programs that pushed you forward to the job that you wanted if you knew what you wanted to do. There was money there. Well, the government knows 10 years out, even companies, where society is going to be moving, you know, i.e., they knew how long it was going to be before they interacted emissions for cars and trucks. They set a year. So it's not like they didn't know what this was coming. So we spent so long here in the last 30 years arguing you don't need education. You don't want to go to I want these liberal colleges. Well, guess what? Now we're seeing the pushback of our education system that's decaying. And now we can't compete. Let's be honest. It's not that we're not intelligent enough. You just don't come out the womb and say, hey, I'm going to be a mathematician. It don't work that way, right? There is some training involved. And the American government, from federal, state, and local, has took all that away from the American citizens, right? And like anybody, no matter what career you're going into, you hear about it enough, you start to think about it, i.e., whether it's being a plumber, whether it's being a doctor, whether it's being a nurse, whether it's driving a truck, you start to think about it. Well, if nobody's pushing this in front of the kids, and there are people who are doing it. At my state, we have two schools and their colleges that does summer program for STEM research, right? So, and every state has this. I've looked it up. Every state has it, but it's very small when these other countries are sending their citizens to universities. Either there they get educated, then come here and get more educated. And we're not doing that. So is the system starting to be designed to work against us now? because this whole competition thing, I'm sorry, I can't compete with somebody coming in from another country with way more education than I got. That's like a 50-year head start, literally, is what they got versus what I have if I'm trying to get into a different industry where they've already been well educated, well trained, and ready to go, and they're willing to take it at a prevailing wage, i.e., a lot lower wage. I just take you guys' opinions on that.
Well, I think, like you said, you can't compete with that. And to be quite honest, you're we because we're all in the same age group. We're like kind of like past that, but it's like we look at our kids, grandkids, and things like that. What are they being taught? What are they being? They're doing this trendy stuff, right? And these jobs are in school, they're not being taught. What are they on? They on TikTok, they on the Facebook, they doing all that kind of stuff. But when you go to these other countries, the type of stuff that they're teaching their kids to do ain't nothing like what we're teaching our kids to do. Like it's like we're just constantly teaching our kids just to be consumers of everything. You know what I mean? We're not creators anymore. We're not inventive anymore. We lost that skill set. And I think, and to be quite honest, I think it's by design, and that's just my opinion on that. That we seem to lost our way with that. We used to be the leaders in that kind of stuff, but look how far we fell behind. And going back to what you said earlier about education, where's that being taught at in school? And I'm talking in a public school because that's where the majority of the children in America go to public schools. You know, so where's that being taught? Where are they getting it? Where's that education at? Is
Yeah.
that even on the curriculum? You know what I'm saying?
No, no. It is.
But they make it a priority over there. That's like a priority. They learning this stuff at a very young age. So you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why
Yeah.
they hitting the ground running.
Yeah. And that's when you brought up the word compete, competition, right? Some of your best athletes, the Ryan Clarks of the world, they train from a young kid all the way till adult, and they win the Super Bowl. It's training, 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 and they're able to compete at the highest level. So if we want to use that analogy, being able to compete at the highest level. But we're down here trying to compete on a high level with low skill training and can't figure out, well, why we're not able to grasp and reach the mountaintop, as Martin Luther King would say. So I think we really got to sit back and think, out of all this time we've been going back and forth with each other as American citizens, I'm talking about, that we really missed the mark because we're all screaming deportation, get them out of here. And the wealthy, these companies, even the government's somewhat behind it, they're importing people. So you want to deport the lower tier, but they're importing the higher tier. Well, I can compete with anybody on the lower level because I've got just as much education as they do. But if I haven't had the opportunity to get the education on a higher tier, how can I compete with someone on a higher level? So I think we really actually ruined it for ourselves as Americans because we've been fighting the wrong fight when it all breaks
Mm.
down to it. You know, I'm gonna say this, and I'll let T Hill gladly jump in. Let's not forget we have a new president to be sworn in the next several days. I didn't vote for him, but I hope everything works well because if he fails, the country fails, right? So that's my outlook on it. But he ran on deportation, and he still may deport those lower tier, but he's still aligning with importing the higher tier instead of saying we're going to focus on giving these kids the best education to compete. We're going to focus on competing with those that aren't in this country. because right now we're falling so far behind. I don't know, because this is a 30-year destruction. 1990s when they started this, the Immigration Act, 1990. So we're over 30 years, and we see where it's gotten us. So, I want people to think about that. On one side, let's get them out of here. But on the other side, well, hey, we need those people. We need the American people to be skilled and trained the same way. So we don't have to bring people in. And I get it. Immigrants always help build a great nation. Nothing new under the sun with that. But we also have to remember we need something too. I mean, I don't know about nobody else, but I want some gold slippers also, if I can get some. So I'm going to give you a chance with that, Tio.
All right. First, I wanted to address the issue what you're talking about, the vice president going on deportation. That's what he ran on, right? So I know it's the president, but I'm using him as the vice president. But what I wanted to say is, what does that mean for deportation? Because if we're talking about H1-B visas, that's a non-immigrant. That is somebody who's legally here. They're not an immigrant. Illegal. They're not an illegal immigrant. They're here legally. So if he ran on deportation, then he ran on putting the illegal people out, not the legal people. So they don't have nothing to worry about unless they're illegal. The other thing I wanted to talk about is the schooling that we have, because we're mentioning that we wasn't taught this and this and that. You need to go to your state and look up your state curriculum, and that will tell you what you're supposed to be learning. And when I look at Ohio's, where I'm from, I see the English language, art, financial literacy, fine arts, health education, mathematics, physical education, science, social studies, technology, computer science, world languages, social and emotional, early learning and development, Ohio English language proficiency, and extended standards. So those were the standards here in Ohio. You go to wherever you live at in the state, and you look up and see what your standards are of the curriculum for your state, and that'll tell you what you should be learning. Now, if you don't learn those things, then that's when you can go and look and see what you need help in. And so what I'm kind of getting from your talk is about it's basically a cultural thing. Maybe culturally people aren't learning some of these things because people learn different. Some people, from what I'm seeing, some people are learning by hearing it and regurgitating it. Right? They'll say, "Oh, I know all about X, Y, and Z," and after they heard it, and then they'll go back and they'll regurgitate it. They're not actually learning. They don't know what we're talking about. They just go and just repeat the subject, repeat whatever they heard, and say they think they know it. So I don't know how we get past that to actually know what it is that you need to know.
Well, let me clarify that before DB jump in. It's not when I say we when you use the word we don't know, right? And the state has a standard that they teach. That standard is the minimum to graduate high school. That's the standard, right? When I was in high school, you couldn't graduate unless you passed a health class. I have no idea why. But that was the standard, the basics of graduation. What I'm talking about is we see technology is always improving, right? So if we go back to from the 40s to the late 60s, right? They understood all hands on deck meant that these are skilled labor, but most of the jobs you're using your hands, hard work jobs, right? That's where we was at that time. Where we're not there no more. We've moved into the technology age, and These other countries see this and they're preparing their students from the ground up to be ready and prepared. Okay, let's take Cuba for example. Cuba has a 99 or 90, 98, 99% literacy rate. Cuba has more doctors per capita than any country. They have one of the best healthcare systems. People from all over the world go and study their doctorate degree in Cuba. And if those who are listening, they give grants every year to 200,000, not 200,000, about 20,000 people from different countries. A lot of the black doctors, because of the cost, go to Cuba and finish their degree, right? So this is a country who's investing in their citizens. Libya was another country that invested in their citizens, right? So no one just comes out knowing, okay, I got to go do this. If you never heard about it, my thing is there's not a push on the American side to get these kids going in this direction. Now we know there are some that are actually trying to do this. I can't remember the gentleman's name. This age is killing me. That's why I can't remember the gentleman's name. But he was wanting to make sure that he got over 20,000 young black boys in a STEM program. Now, this is not about a color. This is just what he's doing to get them into this. He's been doing this for years because he see the future. This is one person, one individual. But when you have a whole country that's decided we're going to always prepare our kids for the future to be the best, and another country who's saying we just want to make sure our kids have the basics, the 3 R's, right? What they used to say, reading, writing, arithmetic, the basics. The basics don't cut it in a technological society.
Why not?
Because how can it cut it when the society is going into robotics? The society
Easily.
is going
They're
into
teaching it.
AI.
They're
But
teaching that. We
are
have
they
computer science.
teaching it? Oh, wait, we have computer science. Hold up.
We have computer science. They
Hold up.
teaching it. What you're doing is
Go
you're
ahead.
you're giving me the problem. I'm giving you a solution. The solution is when you get out of high school, you got to go and get the advanced training in college. Okay, when you get out, you're not forced to go to college, right? You got to pay for that. When you get out of public school, if you wanna go into that AI and get the AI scholarship, you gotta go up against some people to get it. You gotta go and work. This is not something that you can't be given this. And these people that we're talking about with these H1-B visas, they're not given that. They have to come over here with a bachelor already, or be in school going to obtain that a bachelor's degree. That's the minimum. So we're going to say, look, if you want to compete, we got to, and we practice being above average. We're not average because if you be what average is, you're going to get what average got. I'm going to preach be above that. So if that's what you want, you got to be above that. So that's what I would say on it. I hear what you're saying, but for me, when I'm looking at this, and I want to get those type of jobs, I got to be twice as better than them because those jobs are highly competitive. These are high competitive jobs that you gotta know what you're doing when you go there. So that you can excel.
All right. Okay. I'm gonna let DB say a little bit before I come back and eat some of that
All right.
elephant right there you just put out there.
Well, yeah, I agree. Like I said, we're solution guys. Once we identify the problem, now we're going straight to the solution. The solution is we have to get educated in these areas. That's the long and short of it. Now we can make all kinds of excuses of why we ain't doing it, but at the end of the day, we got to figure out how to do it. You know what I mean? How to compete. How to compete, you got to get educated. If you don't get educated, you ain't going to compete out here. I was just looking up some statistics, like 54% of adults, right? Literacy rate is at a 6th grade level. 54%, man.
Wow.
How you going to compete with somebody like that, bro? because we don't. We listen. Listen. Take yourself for instance, right? Let's take personal responsibility, personal accountability. How many of us actually read?
It's very difficult, and I'm gonna tell you why.
Most, and the studies show most Americans they're not reading.
Right. I think school is very difficult because when you in school and you poor, you trying to worry about your next meal, where your next meal gonna come from, right? And so when you in school and you hungry, right, and you're like, man, I ain't gonna have nothing to eat tomorrow, right? You got to figure out how you're gonna eat. Well, I gotta go to work. Well, you ain't old enough to work. You got to be 16 with a work permit to work over here. You can't be less than that. Well, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to go down to Mr. Charlie and see if Mr. Charlie will pay me under the table because I need some money to eat. You know what I'm saying? So you learn to grow up really quick, and you're gonna miss a whole lot of education doing that. But you're gonna know one thing. You know how to go to work and eat. And so those jobs where you're talking about, you're gonna get passed over because you're not in school. You're not getting a bachelor's degree. You're not getting an associate's degree. You're not getting a master's degree. You're not getting those degrees. You're going straight to the workforce with your hands. And what you're talking about, that job, they need computer operators. So this is this is what you're gonna have to deal with. Can you learn those things? Probably so, but you're not gonna learn it at an early age because you're thinking about where your next meal gonna come from. Because you're growing up in a impoverished community, a community that doesn't work together, right? When you go to the store, the person that owns the store isn't the person that's from that community like that. So you're gonna be like, oh man, I hope they give me some food on credit.
Now,
They might not.
that I can agree with that, right? But my whole thing is this, right? I think we all can agree, or we can disagree. An area that puts focus on education is always a more productive society, right? So when you put focus on education, society becomes more and more productive. Um, and I'm gonna be a little spicy with it, right? We can take certain black communities. We know that just looking at history, coming out of slavery, a lot of blacks were so focused on education, and they was able to build prosperous communities, right? Now we're not so much doing that in our community, and as a lot of community as a whole aren't doing that. You know what I mean? A lot of them. And I think that's where the problem is. I still say people like, and you're right, you have to have a bachelor's degree minimum to come over, right? But if you're coming over from a poor country, right, how are you getting a bachelor's degree? How are you affording it? So is
Let let me
college
let
too
me do this.
affordable in this country that
Let
go ahead. Mhm.
let me do this because I don't want the people uh, to be bamboozled and misled, right? Because they're going to see the same stuff that I'm looking at when you hear a person that's from Indian descent. I'm gonna pick on Vivek real quick because he said, "Oh, it's a cultural thing." I hear what he's saying, but I don't agree. And when we having this conversation, you could be like, "Oh yeah, well, it's a cultural thing." That's what it is. Let me go back to what you just said. How do we get those poor people in them other countries to come over here? Let's do this. Let's as a person, let's flood those countries over there with cocaine, heroin, fentanyl. We're gonna flood it. I mean, flood it. We're gonna flood it so bad that everybody and their mama over there gonna be on drugs. And then I want to have that conversation with you about how them people coming over here with a bachelor's degree. And I guarantee you that that won't work because that's what happened to our country with these people here in our neighborhoods. So now, if we didn't have that, then we could have a different conversation. But that's what I want to have. That's just what I want to say. I'll let you have the floor.
Oh, okay. Let me eat off that elephant again. You're right. So once we flooded these areas with drugs, it handicapped the population, right? So it handicapped uh, the blacks during the time, the black community, I didn't mean to say the blacks, during the time of the crack epidemic. And we had the heroin epidemic before that. Now we have the meth epidemic, right? So it's just epidemic after epidemic. And but when if we take those drugs out of those communities, not just black community, just white, just take them out, then we see and we know for a fact that that area is going to thrive, right? Not only financially but educationally, it's going to thrive. I stand on what I say. I'm gonna stand on this soapbox until I leave this earth. We have to put more emphasis on education on the lower level. I get it. Everybody's not going to be an engineer. Everybody's not going to be a doctor, right? Everybody's not going to wake up, oh, I want to be going to neuroscience. It's not going to happen. Everybody's not going to want to go into biology. I get that. But to sit here and look at other countries investing in their people, you don't wake up as a child, a 4 to 6 year old, and you're going to kindergarten, and guess what? You're going there because you want to be a science major. You know you want to be an engineer. That's not possible. We know that. But for some reason, this country has taken the emphasis off of educating its populace, its populations, well, I want to say, but I like to call it populace. They're taking the focus away from that. Now that we're hearing about what's going on to a certain degree, we say, well, hey, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with anybody want to work, but I got a problem when we're not investing in our people here first, right? If I live here, why can't I have that opportunity? And you can't say, well, you got the same opportunities they do. No, not when educationally wise, you can say yes. But if I can't afford that college at MIT, if I can't afford to send my kid to Yale, how do I have that same opportunity when there is someone in another country where they are being given that opportunity to go to these colleges and then come here and go to an Ivy League school? In fact, is that. So my thing is the educational infrastructure. If we can focus and fix that, we will be able to compete in this market a lot better. You know, and I'll take DB's comment on it, see if he want to add anything to it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you there about education. Um, and like you said, it because you look at it like you just explained when you talk about education and the education in other countries, the type of education that they're receiving versus the type of education we're receiving here. We used to be way up here with education. Yeah, I'm going years ago, right? Hell, before we were even born. But now that we kind of went this way with education,
We're
and
56.
I don't. Yeah, there you go. I don't think it's just one thing that we can point the finger at to say this is the problem. I think it's a combination of all those things that you guys laid out. Drugs, like you do that to other communities, the same thing gonna happen. You pump drugs and weapons and all, that's going to have crime, all that. I understand that, but how do we fix this? Do we just now when you say education, where do we start at? Like how do we start that? What's the process of that? When you got an administration coming in that wants to pretty much get rid of public education, where do we start at when this comes down to educating our kids?
Well,
I'm gonna ask why. I'm gonna ask
Yeah,
why is this
mhm.
administration? I'm gonna ask the first thing I'm gonna ask is why is this administration want to get rid of public education? Because let's see how educated you were when you were in school to see if it because we're talking about the same system.
hmm
So you got to
now,
show me what are you going to replace it with? If you want to get rid of this one, if you want to get rid of this one, you got to have something to replace it with. You just can't get rid of something and then to say, okay, we're done with that.
I agree. And my thing, and I agree. They say, they want to get rid of it because they say that it's not working. Oh, well, we can see that, but why?
Right.
Like, where's
Mm.
the why at? Like, what is going on there of why it's not working? Maybe because you're not putting enough funding into it to educate our people, our younger kids towards things such as STEM at an earlier age, as opposed to waiting until they get into high school where they already being beat out by the foreigners who learned it in elementary. I don't know. But I honestly think it's actually by design, man, because the history of this country, the history of this country has never been for the people of this country. The history of this country has always been profit first. Now, if you happen to get educated and carve out a good life for yourself in the midst of all that, then salute to you. But the history of this country was designed for profit. This is the United States is a business. Let's be clear. This is a business before a country.
Correct, correct, and that I wouldn't argue uh, the point that United States is a business, right? We see the way that it was formed; it was ran as a business. Will not argue that at all. But my only thing is, and like I said, I would die on this mantle saying this. We have to understand that in order for us to compete, we have to bring something to the table, right? And if we're not bringing anything to the table, we can't compete. We cannot walk in the room. And my biggest issue is I've just seen over my lifetime the decaying of the American education system. And I think that's the big problem. It's just decaying. They're talking about destroying it, and I'm like, UT, what are they going to replace it with? But they always want to pull money out of it, right? And that's the problem. You're pulling money out, but you're not putting anything there to balance that to help the kids get ahead, right? You cannot have a functional society where everybody is uneducated. It just won't work. Even the ones who are educated, there are more uneducated than there are educated. So what happens now when the uneducated rise up, revolt, and decide we want to take out the educated? Now we're no longer the United States. We're the country of idiocracy. So we got to figure out some kind of solution. Like I said, we talk all the time, us three, and we always end with, well, what's the solution, right? Well, I'm gonna give my opinion on it, but I'm gonna hold it to the end. Say that because I want to talk about a lot more here. So if I can pull up an article, let's see if I can do it. All right, T Hill DB, can you guys see this article here?
Yes.
Yeah,
All
I can
right.
see it.
All right. So for those who are watching and may watch later, I'm just going to skim off the top, basically give you a little bit of what it says. It says U.S. trucking companies that sponsor immigrants helping newcomers find work in America. Now, I'm going to read that one more time. Make sure I have a clear understanding because they always say anybody can read words, but can you understand what you read? Because that actually means you know how to read. And I'm going to say it again. U.S. trucking companies that sponsor immigrants helping newcomers find work in America. Now, those people that they're talking about, for a minute, sorry about that, guys. Those people that they're talking about, now they come in on what's called a H2 visa or H2B visa. I'm still trying to get the acronyms right. And now we have to ask, or I'm going to ask, right? Because we know people that love the trucking industry. And I don't know why, because the trucking industry don't love them, but they love the trucking industry. And it's a passion to a lot of people. But at the same time, we're trying to figure out where's trucking headed. But then yet we see these articles concerning and letting us know that they're bringing in immigrants. And this is what it said. Now, that's not the old word. That's what it says. They're bringing them in into an industry where it's already overpopulated to a certain degree, at least in my opinion. What does that do for this industry? Because, see, now it's competition out here. You're bringing in people from countries. And I know personally, if you bring somebody from Russia into this country and they become a truck driver, well, guess what? If they make $1,400 a week, they are happy than a pig in slop because they average $1,400 a month. And of course, they're paid in rubles, not dollars. But that's what they average a month. So when you bring them over here, and from other countries too, Honduras and everything, and the people that come over here, they're from countries where the trucks are already left-hand drive, so it's easier for them to do it. The Honduras, the Guatemalas, the Haitis, Russia, all these places, right? And those are just a few. Even certain countries in Africa, their trucks are left-hand drive. So these people are able to come over here and through these visas and get employment. But guess what? They're not raising the bar. Whether these other people who are coming over, they're raising the bar. So now we're seeing you're bringing people and putting them in an industry where they're not raising the bar. They're actually lowering the bar, or they're keeping the bar at the level that it's at. I want to say stagnant, but we're just going to say they're keeping the bar at the level that it's at. You know, how is this beneficial? Now, because Teal, you kind of
let me ask you this: the H-2 visa, what's the minimum pay that they get? Because as truck drivers, I already know that if you're coming and you're becoming a truck driver, you're Fair Labor Standard Act exempt, so they can pay you however they want. Okay, so these people that's coming over here on an H-1 visa, I think whatever class they going to, they have to pay them the minimum. And from what I've been seeing, it's like the minimum is like $60K. So what is for that H-2B visa? What's the minimum pay they're going to get? Because you got to give them a minimum.
Okay, you got to give them a minimum, right? And now generally it's based on prevailing wage, and prevailing wage is from the bottom up. They're going to be in between there, and understand with the H-2 visa, that's in the same classification as agriculture. Right? What we're just talking about trucking, but that's what they use for agriculture. And we know agriculture is based on a minimum wage. So by it's not being by the Fair Labor Standard Act, if you use that analogy, my opinion, I don't know. I wish I would have dug a little deeper, but I don't know. I don't know. But I will say this. I don't think a company is bringing somebody over and starting them at a higher wage of a person who's been in this industry for, let's say, 10 years.
Right.
It wouldn't benefit. It wouldn't benefit them. Right.
I wouldn't think so either.
Okay. So we can assume at a prevailing wage, and if it's cents per mile, I'm going to say, and this is based on prevailing wage, I'm going to say maybe 35 cents a mile.
Oh, okay.
Is what they could be paying them, which we know is 15 cents lower than what the standard rate, just about 50 cents a mile.
So in having this conversation, this is something that I don't like to do. When I don't know something, I like to go and get the answer to it. So I like to know if anybody that's listening to this, put down in the chat any of these companies that hire H-2B visas, truck drivers. If you know any companies that's out there that's hiring drivers from other countries on a visa level, put it in the comment section below, so I can go and ask the owner those questions that I need to ask.
Yeah. Now I don't know if the owner's going to tell you. If you call my company, I'm going to say it's based on experience.
This is the thing. So if you are somebody that's accepting visas, there's going to be some things that you're going to have to answer. you're going to have to answer some of those things. Now, you might not have to answer for
Harpo
me, but you're
says
going to.
Snyder.
Okay, so Snyder,
He put
so
a
Snyder.
Snyder. That's what Harpo put in there.
Okay, so thanks, Harpo, because what I'll do is I'll give Snyder a call and I'll have those questions to ask them. What do they pay for somebody that's coming from another country? Okay, so because they're gonna tell me, they're not gonna say, well, we don't talk to you and we don't tell you that. I'm thinking about sponsoring somebody and bringing them over. Okay, so you would have to tell me, and if you don't want to tell me, then I get it. You might be hiding something. Like, what is it to hide when you're obviously hiring those type of people? Because, like what you're saying they're not pushing the bar up. I don't understand that because I mean, you get your driver's license, you get your endorsements, and you haul what you need to haul, and you learn what you need to learn. I don't see that they need to have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree to drive a truck. But I don't know because I have to go and ask the people that's doing it.
Well, before I give my 2 cents on that, let me ask DB this question. Do you think that in this industry that we're in, and there's so many different facets of this industry, we all can agree with that, right? It's not just one size fits all. But at the same time, bringing people in from different countries that their pay is not even a fractional of what the top earners in this industry make. Is that beneficial to the industry as a whole?
You want me to answer that? Because I think it is.
No, I want to give DB a chance to
Okay.
answer that because we've
Okay.
been rapping on and on.
Well, to the industry, yeah, I guess you could say it's beneficial for the industry.
What about the drivers? I should have said the workers. Of course, it's going to
Now
benefit
that's
the company.
yeah. Now that's another conversation. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But this is nothing new because it is just. I think, and it's just my opinion. I think this is just another way to bring in cheap labor because they like you just talked about earlier. It'd be no sense to bring them in, right? If you had workers here and they're going to pay them, I don't know, whatever the wage is, $30 an hour, $20, whatever it is, they're not going to pay them that. They're going to pay them under that.
Absolutely. This is why companies don't like unions. You know why? Because the union's going to come in there and they're gonna fight
They're going
legally
to fight for
for
more.
their
Yeah,
for
for
Yeah.
more
more for
money.
your
Yeah,
right
for
for
labor.
more money, right?
So
And they're going to look at your books. They're going to look and see how much you're making and say, oh yeah, this company can afford that because this company is making 20 times as much. So
correct.
they're going to be able to fight for you a right to have a contract and have a higher wage, and it's going to be secured by that.
So basically, make sure I'm getting it right. Right. It's not beneficial to the worker that's in the trucking industry, the guy that's pre-tripping, driving, post-tripping, strapping, unloading, hooking up hoses. Pick your poison. You're saying it's not beneficial to that group in this industry to bring in immigrants and pay them, and we know more than likely they're going to pay them at a lower wage because they don't have to
Absolutely.
pay
Right,
them at top
Yeah.
wage, right? So
right.
at that
I don't.
point, then it's no longer a positive. This becomes a negative.
It can become a negative because you don't have a contract. You see what I'm saying? You're out here. If you're out here and you're working a job, meaning you don't have a union contract, and you're out here working a job, you're a fire at will employee. You're going to be subject to whatever the industry is subject to. You see what I'm saying? Even the people that have union contracts, but their pay is secured. People that's out here just working, they got to go one at a time to go in and ask for a raise. They don't go as a group and everybody get the same thing. Now you may see a job that say, hey, we start off at $30 an hour, but then when they go for their raise, they might not get a dollar raise. They may get a quarter raise. They may get 50 15-cent raise. You never know because you're not supposed to talk about those things.
Well, here's the thing. If you're non-union, you're not supposed to talk about what you make per hour, per mile, whatever. If you're non-union, if
Right.
you're union, you can talk about it
Says who?
because everybody's making the
Says,
same amount of money.
says who, Theo?
Yeah, well, that's just most companies I've worked at that were non-union. They didn't
don't
want you
want
discussing
you.
pay.
Why?
One, there could be a pay discrepancy, right? One guy could be making more money. That's
Right.
why they don't want you
And
discussing.
exactly, because then the next guy gonna go and ask for more money, and then
That's
the next
right.
guy gonna go and ask for
So,
more money. And so
Yeah.
forth.
Right. That's why they don't want that.
Listen, I've kicked
That's
some
why they
backs
don't.
in my day to get more money, right? I've kicked some
Yeah,
backs
yeah.
in. So, but if you're in a union, everybody's making the same, right? Everybody know that their prevailing wage is going to go up at this time, at this time, at this time. So with them bringing in, and I go back to this, with them bringing in these immigrants, and I have nothing against anybody that wants to work. I just want you to get paid.
Can I just
Yes,
ask you a question straight?
sure.
Are you for or against it?
I'm against it.
Okay. All right, go ahead. You
I,
continue.
I'm,
I just
I'm, a,
wanted to see. I
yeah.
just see what your stance is on. All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm against it because the reality is this: if you're able to pay people less than the standard rate of what we get out here, right? Average, and whether you run the road or local, there's an average that everybody is in where there's an average pay, and you're paying lower than that now, and guys have to compete with you. So if I've got a 5 truck operation and I'm paying my guys, let's say 61.5 cents a mile with benefits, and somebody who has another 5 truck operation, but he has all immigrants, and he's dropping it down to where he's paying these guys 30 cents a mile on 1099. Now, guess what? We're trying to bid for the same freight. He can cut his costs to move his truck versus the way I can cut my costs. So I can't compete with someone who can bring in lower pay, not lower skill, lower pay workers, right? I can't. Now, I'm not saying there's a standard rate per mile. Go ahead.
I disagree because in trucking, if you talk about trucking, you could pay anybody anything. The reason why you can't compete is because number one, you said the word "I can't."
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to tell you you can. What you have to do is you got to go out and you got to go find the worker that wants to work for less.
Well,
Okay. Now, don't say you don't want to do that.
He got to be a part of the problem. That
yeah, you go. Nah,
No,
he trying to make. I guess T. Hill said he gonna be the whole problem.
No, the part of the problem that he has, that Theo has, because Theo said he couldn't compete. So if you can't compete, then you got to do what he said is causing a problem.
That's his problem.
Which is
that ain't everybody's problem. That's just his problem.
That's why I said
compete.
Theo.
Yeah,
Theo
he got to
said he
do
couldn't compete because of the lower companies bringing in lower
low
wage
wages.
workers. So in order for you to compete with that, you
got to go out and go do it.
Get
go find
lower
some
workers. So
workers.
in turn, it's just a race to the bottom.
Correct.
Right.
So now,
because then I'm going to come behind Theo, and then the next person going to come behind me until there's nothing left.
Correct.
Right.
And if I could say this, right, it made me think when I woke up this morning. It made me think about I think the company's CR England. I think they're the company that does this. The company that has 3 bunks in the trucks, right? They got the 2 in the back, they got the 1 overhead. And I've actually seen pictures of these trucks where guys that work for these companies, they showed them. Not saying that that's a bad company. I'm not. But they've showed this, right? It makes me wonder, are they doing this kind of operation of bringing immigrants in, and they're putting 3 guys to 1 truck to keep the truck just moving, right? And if that's the case, they can drop their rate per mile that when they bid on their contracts, or if they're taking spot market freight, they can drop that rate just a little bit to the point where now they determine what the rate is in that specific lane, right? And in this industry, I don't care who you are, the goal is not a race to the bottom. It's never been that way. Excuse me, I had to cough for a minute. So it's never been a race to the bottom, but it seems like to me that on one hand, some people are glorifying the race to the bottom, right? I don't want to race to the bottom. I want to kind of keep the rates up and just keep rising to the top, as Dougie Fresh once said in the 89. So that's what I want to do. But I think bringing them into the trucking industry is, now that I look at it, I think it's actually hindered the industry a lot more than it's helped the industry. And I'm talking about for the worker. I get it. For the company, the corporation who has investors and they've got to pay their investors. Yes, it benefits them. I don't represent a corporation. I don't represent well, I am an investor in some companies. I ain't gonna lie about that. But I don't represent, I'm still the average blue collar worker out here competing. And when I see you can bring people in and deliberately knowing you can pay them that prevailing wage, that you don't have to give them what the average pay is. Understanding after 3 years, you can get rid of them and bring another group in and keep that pay at the same amount. Yeah, I got a problem with that. I just got a problem with it. Right? The only bright side. Yeah, there you go. The only bright side to this is they pay into the American tax system. That's the only bright side.
And we're almost at retirement age. So
there you go. There you go. So we're thinking about it more and more. We're thinking about it more and more.
Because we got some bigger fish around here to fry, because you have a plethora of Americans that ain't trying to pay no taxes into the system.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
I was going to say that's why I keep my baseball bat. I be trying to break legs.
Yeah,
the guys
so
don't want to pay that.
Yeah, so they're not trying to pay into the system, but now you have these people coming over paying into the system. So, well,
yeah, and actually,
I guess I might have to be for the people paying into the system.
Well, and here's the thing: when they do come over, let's not get this twisted. They're not being mistreated the way some people think they are, and of course the high levels aren't really that being mistreated. I don't like the fact, hey, after 3 years, now you can go and register to some kind of company like a temp agency, and they just shipping you all around the country, right? But these people are allowed to have a 401k if they leave the country and decide to let their 401k stay where it is and it just grows. They can get that money when they're ready to retire. They can get it before they do. We all know that it's not beneficial, but they can do it. So they do pay into a system. They do certain things that we like, meaning us three. We like to see people doing. But at the end of the day, I still just feel, listen, we need to educate our own for the next new bubble that's coming around, right? We had the .com bubble. Several years ago, everybody was talking about coding. It's all you ever heard. And now we're seeing that the AI and market, where it's going, and general robotics, we see that this is the future. And I don't think it's too late for our American government, which we pay taxes for, our state government that we pay taxes to, our local government that we pay taxes to invest a fraction of that money back into its people. That's all I'm asking. And I grant it, I get it. An elementary school with 120 kids, K through 6, all 20 is not going into STEM. I know that. I'm not even going to sit here and try to debate that. but there is a percentage that has the capability to go into STEM. So why can't we focus on those? That's all I'm asking. Let's spend the money to educate its citizens. I don't think it's hard much to ask for. And if it is, maybe I'm wrong. I just don't see it, right? So this is where we're at, more or less, right? We're at the cuffs in this country where either education becomes the focal point again, or we're going to be a society not just of consumers. We're going to be a society of where some of us say, well, I'm middle class. It's not going to be a middle class. It's either going to be poor or wealthy, the way everything is being structured because of the educational system. And let's be honest, every country has people that do the same thing. If I go to Belize, which is a very beautiful country, they have HVAC people there. They have truck drivers there. They have teachers there, right? All blue collar jobs. They have that. Some on the low end, some on the high end. They have that. Now, the problem is, what if they wanted to come over here and start competing with us, but we haven't put emphasis on those trades, being teachers, being a plumber, being an HVAC, right? So now we see people come in getting jobs that desperately need workers. So if we desperately need workers, why can't we desperately invest in the citizens? That's my main focal point. Why can't we invest in our own people? I don't see why it's so hard not to invest in your citizens, right? And I get it. People will say, well, they send all this money to Ukraine, Israel,
Well,
whoever.
well,
To, to,
well,
Mhm.
Theo, it sounds like you want a perfect world, right? I get
right.
you. I feel because I actually feel the same way. But
Mhm.
then we got to deal with reality, bro. It ain't gonna happen. So now we know the problem. We know that ain't gonna happen. What is Theo gonna do?
Well, you know what? That's a tricky question, and
It's not tricky. You
no,
got
no.
you got a
As,
choice. You got
as
a
the host, I am obligated by law not to answer that
well. You can
Well,
you
due to
can tell us.
copyright infringements. I can't answer that.
well, let me say this, right? And like we all been in trucking for a long time, right? I actually did a live feed earlier, right? And I kind of talked about when I came into the industry, I came in as a trash truck driver, right? Bought my own trucks and things like that. I was kind of faced with the same thing that we're talking about now. It's just people coming in just constantly driving down the rate. It's like, what is going on here? Like, you know what I'm saying? So everywhere I moved, I didn't care what I did. I moved over here, it was good. And then people come over and then they just kind of drive it down. It's like, what the hell is going on? So I had to figure out something. So when you want to do better and you got to get a different skill set, whether that's through education or whatever that is. You got to just do what these average people can't do. And then when they finally come along to do what you're doing, damn it, you better find something else to do. That's just all I can tell you could do. Or we could sit here and just complain.
Yeah, yeah. And listen, I agree with that 100%. Right, and that's why I think it's safe to say, since you guys have known me, I've always spoke of education, right? Just trying to learn anything I can. Uh, but we're a little long in the tooth, so we may not be changing industries or getting any upgrade to what we already doing. But this is more so to those who are younger than me, younger than us. I'll say it that way, and to kind of get them to look at this situation. I don't want to call it a problem because then I seem like an American who's just complaining and I want the perfect world, which I do as a socialist. I do. Uh, so I would say this. when you're younger, you got the youth on your side. Take advantage of the youth. Take advantage of the way the country is going. You can see there are certain industries that are moving forward, right? So at that point, take advantage of it. Just stick your head in there and see what's going on in that other room. It's not going to kill you if you
There you
do
go.
that. It's not. So I think that's what I hope people get from us talking about this, right? Because I'm not mad at anybody from another country that's willing to make the sacrifice to move to another country that
That's a
they
hell of a
don't know.
sacrifice to
That's a
do that.
huge
Yeah,
sacrifice. You
yeah.
see what I'm saying? And,
To
and
uproot, to go to a foreign land to try to
correct,
establish yourself.
correct.
Yeah.
Now, what I did find out is they are allowed to, if they have a spouse, to bring their spouse, but the spouse has to apply for what's called a H4 visa. So I spent a lot of time last night trying to
Yeah,
crash course myself.
we got a lot of H's going on
Yeah,
here.
yeah. You see what I'm saying? I feel like I'm on the electric company. H, when they yelling and showing, right? Yeah. So
I know that went over the young people's head.
yes, yes, yes.
Oh
So,
man.
but
Boy, you aged yourself with that one.
yeah, well, I say it all the time to you. Hey, man, you're aging out, right? So that's what I want to get
Let me
across today. Go ahead,
let me
Tim.
ask you
You
this:
mute up.
how would you feel if the government gave uh, a a nonprofit 50 million to invest into classroom teachers in states? 50 million for the next 7 years. How would you feel about
Wait,
that?
wait, wait. Now, hold up. When you say
For STEM.
invest, oh, for STEM, I'll be all for
Yeah.
it. All for
Right.
it.
So you should be at already because it's already being done. So it's
Yes,
already being done
that's
right
true.
now. So you're for that.
Yes.
So so what do you need? You need somebody to go in and see if it's working, or is it how the money is being affected to the program? Because it's a grant. It's a
It's a
three
grant.
hundred fifty
Correct.
million dollar grant. Okay.
Yeah, and,
So
and of course, with anything, you need some kind of oversight. Now, don't get it twisted. You need some
well,
oversight. In other words, I don't want to say, okay, we just dumped $350 million, right? And
mhm.
they're not even really putting focus on the kids into getting into STEM, right? Here's what we know. Here's what I know. I can say we. I know, and from just following different people and personally seeing that when you take a kid age 6 through 12 to a science fair, they're more likely to become scientists. You
Okay.
get what I'm saying? When you
Yeah, I
when
I
get what you're
agree.
putting down.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm glad you're
Right.
picking up what I'm putting down.
We
So
picking it up.
all right, that's what I'm talking about. Put it in your back pocket. So when we do that, guess what happens? Now we're actually building. We're using the building blocks now. Now this is old Lego, right? We're using the building blocks to get our citizens into this. The reason why in the late 1800s, everybody can look this up. There was always world fairs in this country: Chicago, Illinois, St. Louis, so on and so on. And what they did at these world fairs, they would have the brightest who would build these extravagant buildings, and there would be all kinds of new technologies, and people could go there. Now granted, they didn't get a real certificate, but they was giving out certificates on what they was planning for the future, right? So you imagine you're going to a world fair in the late 1800s, and you're seeing magnificent buildings made of all glass. You're seeing architect from the Greeks, from the Egyptians. You're seeing it from southern Italy, the Moorish architect. You're seeing this, and you're like, well, how did they do this? It piques your interest. And this is what they used to do to get society to think beyond the horse and buggy, right? Because we're going into the industrial revolution now. So we had to do something to get society to start thinking a certain way, right? So we understand and when I say we, me, I apologize again. I understand how when you put things in front of a society, society is going to go that way. If you show society violence, society will be violent. If you show the society of nurturing, society will be a nurturing society. And if you show education, society will start to move towards being a educated society. So
Yeah.
we have to fix that problem. Now, the 350 million is a start. It is a huge start, you see, but I still say we keep doing what always worked, showing those that are coming up, the next generation, what's available. Because that's how you find out what a kid's interest truly is. You see what I'm saying? That's how you really find out, by showing. Because if you don't know about STEM, why would you go into a STEM program if you don't know about it? You see, if you and it's more than just in the acronyms of STEM, right? So if you wasn't taught a lot about science, science is just not going. It's not going to be a non-issue. Then you get into the technology side, right? So we understand, and all of us do, that there was always a kid in high school or middle school that was very good with building and taking apart something, right? That kid generally became your mechanic or your engineer. Just depends on the education that was put in front of them. You see? So it's not that we don't have the, I don't want to say ingenuity because we lost that. It's not that we don't have the drive to be great and to be a part of these programs. It's just not enforced enough. You see what I'm saying? And I would admit to what DB said earlier. These kids in these other countries, they're far ahead of us because the education is emphasized so much. We're still learning in our schools mathematically the same way we did in the
Yeah.
1800s,
It's
the
outdated, man.
1900s, everything, right? We're
It's
still
outdated.
learning, we're learning the same way, right?
Yep.
So we are, like DB said, I just say we're definitely outdated. We're definitely
When you,
outdated.
when you were in high school and you needed to get out of a poor situation, what jobs or job did were you seeing? Were you looking at? What was being thrown at you?
Well, you're asking me personally?
No, I'm just throwing it out there to anybody listening to this podcast. What job was that? Because
Oh,
for
okay.
me, it was sports, right? So you seen the basketball player, you seen the football player, you seen the hockey player, you seen all these other sports as a way to say, you know what, I want that job because that job paid millions of dollars. So maybe that's what you we need to start seeing more of. If that's what you want to see, you have to see more of that so that you want to do that.
Correct, correct. But
Okay.
now, and I'm gonna speak for me personally on that, right? So you said high school, so we're talking 64. So me personally, I wanted to be a history teacher. Now that's nothing to do with STEM. You see what I'm saying? STEM was not in the outlook. That's what I wanted to do.
Look, let me
But
ask you this, because
yes,
I don't want to get too far. You wanted to be a history teacher because you saw that it paid a lot of money. Because I'm looking at the money. I'm talking about money wise, not
oh,
what you wanted to do, just money wise. If you had to do anything to get you out of a situation that you were in, a poor situation, what job did you want to do to do that?
money wise, see, I wasn't really in that kind of situation coming along. So
So
it's
you already had wealth. You
I,
already
well,
you wasn't living in the ghetto.
no, no, not by
Okay.
any means. And I'm not knocking anybody that was.
I'm not saying that. Listen, that's the last thing.
Yeah.
I'm asking you. So by you not having that to look at, to get you out of that situation. Now you could focus on what you like to do. You like
Correct.
to be a history teacher. So what I'm
Hmm.
trying to explain to the listeners, if you're in a situation that you're trying to get out of, the first thing you're going to try to do is get out of that situation. You're never going to go to your passion. You're never going to go to your passion because your passion is so far removed from what you're trying to do. You're trying to get out of a bad situation. So the first thing you need to do is, how do I get out of this bad situation? And once you get out of that bad situation, you don't have to worry about that no more. And so when we talk about the black community, the black family, we're already in a bad situation. We have two-parent homes, our single mothers, single fathers. We have these broken families that they're already in these bad situations. Now they got to get out of those situations in order to come down the same road that you were at, and follow your passion. Because the passion is what really gonna thrive you to do what you want to do. Does that make sense?
Well, yeah, it makes a lot of sense, right? And that's why we have to invest in the society that we're in, right? When I say invest, meaning we have to have, every country does this, but as a somewhat socialist, I understand that if we invest in our people constantly, it's gonna come back to us 10 times fold, right? Why do I want to invest in negativity unless you got investments in private prison? That's a different story. But if you don't, I want to take the money that you pay taxes for and invest it back into the community. You know why? Because now that person who came up poor has a fighting chance when they can get, I don't care, a 12-month certificate. If the mother and father, whether in home or not, did not graduate high school, but the son or daughter does graduate, and there's actually some money there to assist them into getting a minimum 12-month certificate. Well, guess what? You just broke the cycle. You literally broke the cycle. Now you are improving that community, right? And I get what you're saying. Your argument is always valid when you say, hey, man, when you don't have certain things, you've got to get out there and work. I get that. What I want to do is to get people so that when they do have kids, they not bringing their kids into that situation, right? Because I can truly say here with all honesty, I did not come along in that situation. We were not rich. That's not what Theo's saying. But I didn't come up having to worry about whether I'm going to eat or not. That's the last thing I thought about. I didn't grow up worrying about whether I had the cleanest clothes at school, right? I had clean clothes. Doesn't mean I had the newest Bally's on. Wasn't the case, right? Didn't have the bomber jacket, but I had a good jacket. You see? So I didn't have that where my confidence was high. I put it that way, right? So I was good on that avenue. Now I just made bad choices in life. That was on me to where I'm at this point. But we know when you're coming from a stronger background, right? And that background has had a chance to change the narrative. They want to change that narrative with their child. So what do? We put emphasis on education, right? And I get it. To me, education is not going out being a doctor. Let's not get this twisted, because there are a lot of blue collar jobs that need to be filled. There's millions of them in this country that need to be filled. And if we can't fill them with American citizens, they're going to bring other people in. And by the time the Americans decide, I want to go into this market, it's going to be another low skill paying job, not a medium or high skill paying job. So I want to rectify that within the next 20 years, because every cycle is 10 to 20 years. It's a 10 to 20 year cycle. We see that the population decreases increases. We see that the education level goes up, goes down. We see that the influx of drugs goes up or go down. We see that um, low birth rates go up, or sometimes they go down, right? When they go, we're high to low birth rates. So we know the 10-year, 20-year, how things work. It's a cycle. We got to break the cycle. That's my only way of looking at it, if that makes any sense at all. And I'm glad to let any one of you guys take that. Oh, see, cat got their tongue. I guess they couldn't. I guess that wasn't the one that they wanted to jump in on. So, oh, go ahead, T. I'm sorry. I see you unmute yourself, brother. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that when when you talk about a plan, a 20-year plan, that's a long time, and you need to have indicators to let us know that it's going in the right direction. Maybe like the first 5 years, how's that working? Because that plan it's a very very long time. Is what I'm saying. I mean, I get you. I feel you. I wouldn't mind doing a 20-year plan, but to me, I think it's a long time. And then if you get to the end of the 20 years and it don't work, then you're gonna do another 20-year plan.
Well, here's the thing. When I say a 10 to 20-year plan, right? One, in that 10 to 20-year plan, one, you have to break the mindset of millions of people,
Oh my goodness, that's
right?
gonna be very hard to do. You
Okay,
talking about
okay.
breaking somebody's mindset?
You got to break the mindset, right? If we
Okay.
just start with the
I,
basis, this is not an overnight plan, right? So
mhm.
when a kid goes to school, it's K through 12, right? 12 years. Then they're a young adult. That's 12 years. Well, if you want a functional society or a functional human being, and we're all functional, but that means it takes about 20 years from the time you come out that womb till you graduate high school. That's almost 20 years. That's your 10 to 20 that you have to play with, and you get about 9 months of wiggle room. That's it. That's how we have to attack this. So when I say 10 to 20, yeah, this is not a sprint. We're just not going to catch up overnight, because DB made a point how years ago, and y'all older guys be remembering stuff. I give you credit. We were always the top or number one in everything when it came to basing the country against another country, our society against another society. We were always, for the longest, one or two. We never dropped below 10. Don't you think about that? And we're still a young country, but we had
Very young
surpassed,
country.
yes, we had surpassed everybody. If you look at the age of this country, we're only 17 years old compared to
You want me to
everybody
get?
else.
You
Yes,
want
sir.
me to give you the why? In my opinion,
Yes, please.
we have no family structure.
There you go.
It starts right there. Now we
I
could
just
do all this gymnastic, jujitsu, man. We could go out and slap box with our karate shoes. We could do all that, but it all starts in your house, in my house, in T Hill. It starts in our house because we want to try to make the world a better place for 350, 30 million people, however many people in this damn country, when we ain't even got our own house in order. It's got to
there
start
we go.
there. And,
Mm,
and, and guess what? And when we say this to people, first they man, see what you done lost already. Because when you talk about when we were thriving, we were married, we were family oriented. You know what I'm saying? All that is disappearing.
correct.
Hmm.
The family structure is breaking down, it's deteriorating, and it's affected everything that we go through in life. So until, and this is my opinion, until we get family structure back, until you, me, T Hill, and everybody listening take personal responsibility to make an effort to bring their family together, then that's what you're going to get. Because you're going to get everybody's for self. Everybody's for self. Everybody doing their own thing. Huh. You see what I'm saying?
Oh, I agree.
Everybody pulling in a different direction.
Right.
Correct.
And it ain't gonna, it's not gonna work like that. Everybody got to be on the same accord, going the same way.
Yeah.
Because when you get that, then that's when you're gonna get actual growth and movement.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
So if we
I
all go in
agree.
different directions, and I'm successful, DB successful, and you're not, then now we got to turn around and grab you and say, "Come this way." You're gonna say, and then by the time we do that, I might not be successful, and then you two might. We're all just pulling each other in a circle. We're not pulling us in a direct line.
I think the problem with that, T Hill, is, and we're talking about our culture and society.
I don't think listen, we can use Vivek stuff and say it's cultural.
No,
It's
no, no,
not
no. I'm not
cultural.
using Vivid. This is
I'm, I'm, I'm telling you what he said. He
Yeah.
said it's cultural. That's what he
No,
said.
that's not what
So,
I was using it for, though. I
but
wasn't using
we
it for that.
we
Just
can
hear me
we
out.
can we can use
Hmm.
that if you want to, but what I'm saying is pull in one direction and we go in that one direction, and then we can go back and look and see how's it working for us.
Correct. But this is what I was wanting to say, because and I was being facetious with what I'm about to say. It's hard if you've got it together, DB got it together, and you want to pull me up. The problem is I'm broken mentally and trained to hate against what you got.
Mm-hmm.
So when I see you coming to pull me up, my mindset is to pull you down where I'm at.
Mm-hmm.
You see, when I said you got to break the mindset, right? It's the old crabs in the bucket mentality, right? But
Mm-hmm.
we all know that we have been looking at the crabs in the barrel wrong. We're not looking at the fact that the crabs are pulling the crabs up. We constantly say they're pulling them down. Well, we've been looking at it wrong for years from a family structure. And I agree with DB. We have to get our family structure in order, literally in order. If not, we will be decimated. And I'm speaking in general terms to the black community right now. And I love every community, but I'm speaking in general terms to the black community. Understand this. There was a point in time in this country where the numbers were 1 and 2. We was always number 2. Right now, when you break the statistics down, we're number, what are we, 5. We're 5. Several other groups that came in and moved above us. Now, we're fighting that system and we're fighting each other. So if we break our mindset of stop fighting each other, we break the mindset of giving young men who come up with every reason why they don't want to be with a woman, and I can't figure this out. And young women who come up with every reason why they don't want to be with a young man. We got a fight on our hand. This ain't marching in the street no more. No, this is a literal shakedown of the community where we've got to really come together and say, what do we do? Because we have tried a lot, but we see the infiltration keeps coming in and breaking up the family, breaking the mindset of those who want to do right, right? So we got a hard road to battle. Don't get it twisted. But I go back to what I've said, and I've always said, we have to put more emphasis on education. And not just book sets, right? When we put emphasis on education, guess what? It takes away the negativity that's always around you, because you're not going to allow that in, because now you're getting a little more educated. You're reading books, or if you listen to audio books. We understand DB listens to a lot of them. He sends us some sometime, and I'm grateful for that, right? It helps me out. So We got to start with that. And that's going to bring us back to the family structure that we need. Because once you realize you're seeing a different light, well, you're going to want somebody who's seeing a different light also. That's how you build. You know, the notion years ago was a married family, the house, the white picket fence, and the dog. That was the American dream. That's become an American nightmare, but we can get it back. But we've got to start with educating ourselves. And if we don't start there, we're not going to build the family structure that we want. And don't get it twisted. I've said this before. I'm not saying everybody's going to be a doctor, a lawyer, a mathematician. That's not what I'm saying. But we have to get educated to the point where we can break the cycle of what's going on. And if that takes tax dollars to do, then let's do it. I'm all about it. But we have to start somewhere. And we understand you cannot maneuver in this country without resources, i.e. money. You go pay your light bill. If you don't have the money, your lights are cut off. You don't have the money, you're not going to be able to get any other kind of education, right? So we have to start from there. That's just my take on it. You know, and I'm welcome to hear anybody's opinion.
Hello?
Go ahead, brother. You got the floor.
Oh, okay. Oh, it got so quiet there.
Yeah, I know,
Hell,
right?
am I still on?
Well, you know, sometimes I get to talking, man. I'm like a run over sentence, no punctuation, nothing, right? You know, so that's why I rant and say, okay, you guys got the floor.
All right. Before I get out of here, let me just ask you and T Hill a question. What are you going to do about it?
I would be happy to answer that. What am I going to do about it? What I'm going to do is what Theo's been doing for a while now. And I don't talk about a lot of stuff that I do.
Let me hold on. Sorry about that. Mm-hmm. And let me be more specific. When we identify family structure, the family, that's what I'm talking about. What are you going to do about it to make that
now
better?
Wait, let me ask before I answer, because I want to make sure I have a clear indication of what you're saying. You know, being, you know, the whole south of the border is starting to kick in. So let me make sure I'm very clear. You said family, right?
Yes.
So
now, unless you don't believe that, then I can't make you believe something you don't believe in. But I believe that we have to start there.
Yes.
And if you don't believe that, then it is what it is.
Yes. I do believe we have to start with the family, right? So when you say, what are you going to do about it, right? I have grown little ones. And I try my best to keep them thinking in the mindset of the way I did with how important family structure is. How a broken home not only does damage for the child, it does damage for the mother, it does damage for the father. And that's a society, that one family could be the end of that generation right there. Right. So when I talk to young kids or young adults, which I do all the time, I just don't really talk about it, I always bring up my family and how my family was, how I grew up, and not saying this is the standard bearer. Always say you can take a little bit from everything that everybody's done. Just a little bit. You got to take everything, just a little bit, but understand the best way to get out of a situation is a strong family. So I emphasize, don't go and try to make a family when you're not ready. That's number one. But look to make that family be a long-lasting family. You want the family name to stand for something. I don't care if you didn't get a degree. You want the family to be, no, man, those were good people. Because when someone say those were good people, that means that they touched somebody. That means that their way of operating or their apparatus, how they move, can help determine how somebody else move. So that's what I'm doing at my age. Now Theo ain't trying to make no more kids. That's just a fact. He ain't trying to make no more. So that part of the family
Oh, I
structure,
understand.
I can't do anything with. But what I can do, I sit down and I talk and I tell people how important it is to have that family structure. You know, we often talk about, for those that are listening, if you hear it on the replay, me and DB, we talk about how we're raised as kids. And what we found out, we were, and I'm going to say this, literally raised, excuse my language for cussing, we was literally raised the damn same. We didn't live in the same state. We didn't know the same people. But the household structure was literally the same. I mean, I'm not lying. Literally the same, right? And if you don't think that plays a part in mindsets, how we think, I got a good one for you. DB posted a picture. Now, this is a sidebar. DB posted a picture on one of his community posts of him standing there with, what is that, a dark brown color shearling jacket? Was it a dark brown color? I think it's dark brown
Oh,
color.
light brown. Light
Okay,
brown.
he had the light brown, right? We're talking about just how it was growing up and some of the mistakes we made with our money, right? Buying stuff we really didn't need. Because we wanted it, but it wasn't a necessity. We just needed a jacket, but we wanted a jacket, right? And these jackets were $600 plus. He talks about when he brought his. I said, man, I brought one of them same jackets over 24 years ago, right? Now, he brought his maybe 2-3 years before me. So either way, these jackets are over 25 years that we both got. We still got them. And he showed me a picture. I said, hold up, I know I got it. I took a picture of mine, and it just shows the similarities in thinking at that point in our age when we spent that money.
Fools.
There you go. There you go. There you
Spend that kind of money on a jacket back in that time.
Man, what you talking about? That jacket was somebody's weekly check.
Yeah.
Literally, right? So I say that to point out that the family structure that we had was so similar to the point where we actually did similar things as adults. Now, counter that. When you hear about people who always talk about prison, always talking about drugs, always fighting, and somebody else said, man, yeah, I used to do this and do that. Well, they got the same family structure. So that's the family structure we don't want. You get what I'm saying? So I just try to put emphasis in telling people the importance of a family. Because when you have a good, solid family, you have somebody that care about you. And when you have somebody that care about you, it makes you want to do more because you don't want to disappoint them.
And that's going to give you your best chance to succeed in life. Is when you come from a good foundation. So we have to put the emphasis on that. You know, the way we were raised, of course, we wasn't perfect. None of us was rich, but we still had family. So that's why we have to instill that in our offsprings of how important that is. But before I get out of here, I wanted to hear T Hill's spill on that before I bounce out of here.
Yeah, it's gonna be much the same. That we're gonna have to just talk to. I got my kids, and
Right.
we're gonna have to talk to them about the importance of family.
Yeah.
And
I think it starts
be
there,
there,
man. I really do.
right? And,
We have to have these conversations with like, okay, you can have it with the guy down the street, the girl down. That's cool, but it better start in
Mhm.
your damn home with your family. That's where it better
right.
start, right there,
Mhm.
because you're gonna have the most influence on them. You know what I'm saying? And they have to understand how important that is, man. Particularly, and they're young, so they're having families of how
Correct.
important that is.
And I'm gonna give you anything you want to say last, and then I'm gonna say something because first of all I want to say I appreciate both of you guys coming on. to everybody that's listening, that came in, wish everybody a happy new year, a safe and prosperous new year. And I'll let you two say your piece. Now, kick it down at the bottom, and then I'm going to close it out. So, anything you guys want to say, good, bad, and ugly, come on with it. I'll mute up and let you say it.
I'm not saying anything bad. I'm a solution based type of person. So if you see a problem, we're looking for the solution, the answer. Uh, Most of the time, you know what the problem is, and it's just going to take a lot of hard work. Uh, and in my industry in trucking, it's hard work. So don't let nobody tell you it's gonna be real easy to do X, Y, and Z because it's not. It's gonna be very difficult. It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be challenging. You're gonna have competition. It's gonna be like a sporting event. And if you like competition, then by all means get in it, get involved, learn what you need to learn the the rules, and once you learn that, then you'll know how to play the game. You'll know how to do what you need to do. If this is something that you don't want to do, by all means, go find a career or something else that you want to do. Don't ever do something that you don't like to do because obviously you're not going to be good at it because you don't practice all the time at it. So that would be what I need to say. Appreciate you, Theo. Appreciate you, DB, having me on. And that's what we're gonna do for 2025. We're gonna educate so that our families can be where they need to be and get down the road and get to the part where we can say, yeah, we did it. But I'm
Gotcha.
out of here. Appreciate it. Thank
All
you.
right, brother.
All right, and appreciate you, T Hill. We'll catch up. Yeah. So my thing is, like I said, we pointed out some problems, like T Hill. We always when we have these kind of discussions, I and Theo and T Hill, we never like to leave these discussions without a solution. And
Correct.
it's just our opinion, right? This is just my opinion on what I think needs to be done. It's family. My
Mm-hmm.
thing always starts with family. I'm a family guy. I come from a family. I'm in a family. So I always like to start there. You know what I'm saying? Because with a family, if you got a good family, you got a good foundation. You could build anything on a good foundation. It's going to
Correct.
be very difficult to build on a foundation that ain't stable. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it starts there.
Mm-hmm.
You said you weren't going to interrupt me.
I wasn't, but you.
Oh,
I
good
gotta
Lord.
say something while you're on the screen.
T Hill, come get your brother.
No,
Come back
no,
and get
I,
your
I
brother,
gotta
man.
say this while you're on the
Go
screen,
ahead. Go
right?
ahead. Go ahead.
Because Teal's a father like us, but he has sons. Very beautiful boys and some beautiful grandkids. I will say that. As a father of girls, I think we both agree how important it is to tell these girls how much we love them and how important it is, no matter how old they are, always to be in the car with them when they're trying to maneuver and move throughout life. You kind of think you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think what's actually more important than that for me, I don't speak for nobody. For me, is to show my girls how much I love their mother,
Mm,
how I won't betray their mother, how I'm with their mother like we ride or die. You understand? I think that's imperative for me to show. Now, it ain't enough for me to tell them. I need to show them. Like I said, I rather freaking see a sermon than hear one. So
correct.
I'm going to show you instead of tell you. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
I want you to see an example. I don't want my kids to have to go somewhere and be influenced, right, by some people
Mm-hmm.
out there because they doing this, that, and the third. No, they got a mommy and a daddy right here that loves them dearly and that love each other dearly.
Correct.
So they know
Correct.
what that looks like. Just like I knew what it looked like, they know what it looks like. Now, what they do with it, I have no control over that. But I gave them what I can give them. I showed them what a functioning uh, uh, mother and father looks like, how they care, how we care for each other, how we care for them, and how we took care of them over the years. And I got
Mm-hmm.
a brand new grandbaby that just got here
Dang,
Monday.
that's beautiful. Beautiful.
You know what I mean?
Beautiful.
So now I got two granddaughters and a grandson. So, hey. I'm living for them, man. So I got to show them. I got to be the example. I got to lead by example. The best teacher is leading by example, and this is just my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with it,
Because
right?
it worked. It worked for me.
Yeah.
My parents set that for me. It worked for me. Now I'm not perfect, you know,
hmm
but listening to a lot of these other people, I'm like, oh my God,
You
I'm
realize
glad
you
I'm hanging
are?
out with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Now
Yeah.
I'm not rich by no means, not financially speaking, but I'm
hmm
rich in other ways.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, yeah.
You know.
I get you. All
So
right, well,
that being
brother.
said, I
hmm
appreciate you. Appreciate T Hill,
No problem.
and I'm gonna fall down. Listen to your ending, and y'all have a good one. Happy New Year, and we're gonna do it, man. We don't stop. We're solution guys. Brothers broke
Facts.
gone.
Facts. That's true. Listen, everybody. I really want to commend DB and T Hill for coming on today. Of course, I'm trying this whole thing out. Y'all generally see me on with OB, so I'm doing a little solo project, right? Just for the moment, and I figured, you know what? Let's try to do something a little different here. You know, let's talk about more things that we generally don't discuss on a normal, and let's make it normalcy, right? And instead of making normalcy is us tearing each other down, I want to make normalcy on us lifting each other, coming up with solutions, finding ways to help each other. Because I feel in this community, in the black community, in every community, but I revert back to it. The black community is, listen, we're all knowledgeable people. We all know something the next person don't know. And I think we're so afraid to prove that we know something that we actually miss the lesson of what we're trying to know that another person is bringing to the table. And I had to learn that myself. So I'm not bashing anybody. But I will say we have to start moving a little different. We have to start changing the narrative if we want to continue to exist in this country. And I know some say, man, you're crazy. We've been around since Friday After Freedom. We was here before that. You're right. Not just, it's no argument. But we're moving so fast that we're actually running backwards. And we got to figure out how to slow down and stop and move forward again. And yes, family structure is important. I will validate that. Education is important. I will validate that also. The question is, how do we mix them together and become a solid foundation of family and education? I think that's something that I'm going to be looking at in 2025. Like I said, I'm going to be doing more of these lives. And of course, me and OB, we will be back on YouTube pretty soon. It's going to be a minute. OB's been very busy, so a lot of people been asking where he's been. So I said, you know what, I'm just going to do some stuff by myself for a while till I gets everything together. And God's willing, he'll be back up here soon because I know everybody love that talk that he do. But until then, you got me. And you're going to get somebody who's going to bring a lot of hot button issues. I'm not in the blaming game so much, but I am one who will call out where we're doing wrong at. I will say that over and over. But at the end of the day, I want to know what can we do to get it together. You know, time is never your best friend, no matter how old you are. Time is not your best friend, especially if you waste that time. Now, if you're productive with that time is on your side, right? We talk about investing. The younger you are when it comes to investment, time is your best friend now. But if you're not investing and you get my age and now you say, I want to invest, time is not on your side. I didn't use my time as valuable as I should have when I was 22. You see? So, yeah, I kind of want to leave it with that. And like I said, I appreciate everybody, those that came in, you know, something new for me, actually trying to do the whole ordeal. So every time I try to go live, I'll probably be late or halfway there. And, you know, that's what we're going to do. And we're going to close it out with that because y'all know me. I can just run on and run on. And I'm going to close it out And like I said, hey man, I appreciate everybody that came in. Happy New Year, and let's look for a blessed and prosperous year 2025. And we'll be back to do it again. Theo is out of here. We'll talk with you. Let me bring me some.